What do you expect to see at COP16 to conclude that it was a successful conference? Hello and welcome to another coverage of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, COP16, on Green Growth TV. It's day 3 of the conference, and today we have more participants joining in to give us front row insights into the pressing global conversations at the conference that is shaping our planet's future. So I have with me William Makhtari, Communications Officer at the Arab Youth Sustainable Development Network, and Parth Bhatt, founder and chairperson board of the Directors ECB Sustainable Youth Foundation. How are you both doing today? Thank you so much for joining on the program. Pat, let me start with you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm very well. I hope I pronounced your name right. I'm not sure I did.
Yeah,
It's part. Okay, great. First of all, we'll start with the aim in this conference. The aim is to, like we've seen, reduce land degradation, especially by the year 2040. So what specific strategies do you think are key to making this vision a reality? What has been happening at COP16? What specific initiatives, conversations has been had at the conference so far to make sure that we're able to meet this goal? How exactly do we plan to achieve this goal by the year 2040?
Also, as of now, as for the discussion of the conference, that yesterday we talked about drought resilience, and we had various institutions and various development banks and governments pledging funds for drought resilience and combating desertification, although they aren't adequate because most of them committed just about $1 million each, which is way too less if we have to combat land degradation, because considering the fact that over 75% of the global land is degraded, and talking about what specific strategies which can which I think are key in making this vision or reality as achieving land degradation neutrality by 2040. It necessitates integrated strategies, like, for example, first we need large-scale restoration using assisted natural regeneration and bioengineering techniques, which can rehabilitate degraded lands. Precision agriculture and data-driven irrigation can further optimize the resource use and reduce the soil depletion through sampling. Secondly, we need to adopt nature-based solutions because they enhance ecosystem services, and they also restore the wetlands for water filtration, and they use agroforestry to rebuild soil cycles. Policy frameworks must also incentivize farmers through payment for ecosystem services technologies like satellite-based earth observation systems, which can monitor degradation and restoration figures. Apart from that, the cross-sectoral collaboration is also integral, and integrating of data from various sectors like hydrology and agronomy is also essential. COP16 should advocate for national LDN targets, which need to be embedded in the NDC's nature implemented contributions, and should be backed by comprehensive land degradation monitoring systems to ensure transparency and accountability.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so I'm looking at the issues that are going on. We know that at the end of the day, the reason why we have all of these talks and all of these conversations, it's because of the vulnerable communities that are suffering from these incidents. For instance, those in the Sahel and the sub-Saharan Africa. So, so far at the conference, I know it's just been 3 days now, but so far, how much improvement have we seen, and how involved have the vulnerable communities been, like the ones I just mentioned, in decision-making processes, especially considering that they suffer the most from this issue? So have we seen major integrations from those particular countries in the decision-making processes, both from those communities, the women and the youth? What improvements have we seen so far? If we've not seen them, what do you expect to see in that particular light?
Alright, so talking about, like, I'll start with the latter part of the question first. So, coming to the youth and women participation, then there isn't much youth participation in this talk per se, and in my delegation, there are multiple youth, and we also The youngest member of the delegation of the ECP Systems Foundation is 8 years old. But just today, when we were having a word, she told me that she cannot see any other young people or any children at the COP, and that's actually reality. They cannot see much people. In fact, there is a pavilion which is organized by an organization which works with children, and they actually requested us to be there with them because they are there for children and they are needs children which they can have at the pavilion. So that's what's happening. Coming to the vulnerable communities and vulnerable communities in the Sahel and the Sub-Saharan region, as you mentioned, they face disproportionate impacts from droughts or land depletion, as everyone knows. Their inclusion in decision making is actually extremely vital to ensure the context specific solutions so that the solutions and the policies which are made, they are contextualized to their realities and they are not generic ones. We need community based natural resource management frameworks for empowering local populations and integrating traditional ecological knowledge with modern sustainable practices can also be monumental and pivotal in this process. Participatory information geographic systems can offer their map the degraded areas collaboratively and facilitate localized action plans. Financial inclusion through microcredit schemes for smallholder farms also enable them to adopt sustainable land management practices, and policy mechanisms must enforce free, prior, and informed consent principles in development projects. At COP16, establishing a global community stakeholder platform could formalize their inputs into international frameworks, ensuring decisions reflect on ground realities and foster equitable, effective land restoration strategies.
All right. So from talks at the conference, we've also seen that drought isn't just about rain, but also how we treat land and water. So what policies or incentives can address issues? Because issues of drought has also been linked to urbanization, deforestation, and water overuse, like I said earlier. So in what way can we curb the issue of drought in that particular aspect? What policies or incentives do we need to see to address issues of urbanization and deforestation that cause these disasters?
Okay, so to answer your question, addressing urbanization, deforestation, and water overuse requires a multi-layered policy framework. Like for urban areas, implementing integrated water resource management and promoting green infrastructure such as permeable pavements and rainwater harvesting system can reduce water stress. And policies managing urban planning include provisions for natural water retention zones and sustainable drainage systems. Combating deforestation also involves enforcing zero deforestation supply chains and incentivizing reforestation through payment for ecosystem services. Countries can further introduce agroforestry incentives where farmers receive subsidies for planting native trees. Water overuse policies must also prioritize agricultural efficiency through precision irrigation technologies and these smart categories. And apart from that, economic tools such as tiered water pricing can regulate consumption. COP16 should emphasize on cross-sectoral collaboration, integrating these policies into national action plans to ensure sustainable land and water management. And it can be done. Like, for example, Singapore is a very good example of how to efficiently manage water because the country's area is so less that it receives negligible rainfall, yet it is able to fulfill needs of all its citizens.
Now let's move to the financial aspect of things. It was stated that the drought has cost the global economy about $878 billion annually. So do you think that the UNCCD can actually achieve the $1 billion that's daily needed, the investment rather of $1 billion to meet the restoration target, especially considering the failure to meet financial target that we had at COP29? So the question is, what tangible financial commitments do you think can be achieved at COP16, or do you think a tangible financial commitment can be achieved at all? Do you, based on, I mean, you're there present and you've been at the conversations from the private institutions there, the government representatives, do they seem up and ready to put their money where their mouth is in this COP16?
Okay, so the $1 billion dollar daily investment proposed by the UNCCD is justified by both economic and environmental metrics. As you said, the drought incurs $878 billion annually in direct losses, which exacerbates food insecurity and economic stability. So restoration mitigates these by enhancing ecosystem services such as the carbon sequestration and water circulation. Studies have also shown that every dollar invested in restoration yields a 10 to 30-fold return on investment to increase agricultural yields and reduce disaster recovery costs. So, to secure funding, UNCC must emphasize blended finance models, combining both the public funds, the green bonds, and the private capital. Establishing land degradation utility credits within the carbon market can further attract private investment. And deploying remote sensing in geographic information systems ensure transparent monitoring, reinforcing the investor confidence. So COP16, I feel like should push for institutionalizing these financial instruments, demonstrating restoration's economic and climate resilience benefits through robust data and systems.
All right, thank you so much. So we'll take a short break now, and coming up, we'll dive into the alarming state of the global forest cover, and all that will be just a moment. So please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching the UNCCD COP16 analysis on Green Growth TV. Before the break, we touched the far-reaching impacts of droughts. And so now let's turn our attention to the state of forests reports that we have seen at the conference. Reports have indicated that the global forest cover is well below the safe boundary. So now, Pat, I want to ask, what urgent steps does COP16 need to push for, to address this critical issue, to ensure that it doesn't get out of hand before we know it? So as regards this global forest covers, they are well below, I think, about 60%. That was in the report, and the safe part is supposed to be 75, but we're at 60%. So what do we need to do to address this urgently, and what will be the effect by the time this keeps going down? Just for people that might not understand why it's important, what will be the effect of this global forest cover if it eventually goes far below the boundary?
So again, answering the latter part of the question first, as you know that we store carbon as form of carbon sinks. So when we cut down these trees, not only we lose the capacity to absorb carbon, to filter carbon from the atmosphere, but we also emit carbon which is stored by these trees and with them for years. In fact, some parts of the Amazon forest have also become net carbon emitters instead of carbon sequestration. So that's why the treaties are important in the ecosystem. Now coming to the first one, restoring global forest cover requires immediate science-driven interventions and firstly enforcing zero deforestation supply chain through regulatory mechanisms and remote sensing technology can curb the illegal logging. So reforestation efforts they should prioritize the native species using assisted natural regeneration to restore the biodiversity. And the technologies like LIDAR, which is the light detection and ranging, can map degraded forests and monitor restoration efforts with a really high precision rate. And financial mechanisms such as the forest landscape restoration bonds and the carbon credits incentivize private investments. And I think the COP16 must advocate for integrating forests into the finance through the REDD plus framework, which is reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. And we also need the cross-border collaborations, which can be exemplified by examples such as the Green Great Wall Initiative, and it should be expanded and adequately funded. And success literally hinges on a coordinated technology-driven approach, which should be backed by a strong policy enforcement and a deep community engagement.
Yeah, all right. So we've seen that there's been very much increased participation of the youth at the COP16. So what are the youth expecting to achieve at this conference? What are they asking for? And have they been very much integrated into the decision-making processes over there and the initiatives that are building up so far? What are they seeking to achieve at the conference?
Let's continue my answer where I left. So there are multiple youth startups here which are developing things like biochar production from agricultural waste and enhancing soil fertility while sequestering carbon also. So platforms like the Youth for Climate Network facilitate knowledge sharing on the sustainable land management best practices globally. And here at COP16, youth, so as far as I have understood, primarily seek policy framework supporting their initiatives, so grants and incubation programs, and engaging youth in the national action plans under the UNCCD can ensure their contributions align with the national strategies and capacity building through platforms like the UNDP Movers program further enhances their impact. I personally served as a mentor with the UNDP Movers program, and I've seen the potential such programs hold and the impact which they can make in youth and how they foster the youth entrepreneurs and help them utilizing those initiatives. And so ultimately, the youth aim here is to foster an intergenerational dialogue and ensure innovative and scalable solutions for land regulation. And they want these to be prioritized in the policy.
All right, thank you very much. So finally, before we wrap up the program, I just want to ask you, what do you expect to see at COP16 to conclude that? I mean, that's at the end of the COP, when the conference is over. What particular goals would you have expected to be achieved to conclude that it was a successful conference? So at the end of the conference, when you look back, what should we have on the table for you to conclude that the conference was successful?
Alright, so I feel that success at COP16 will be defined by concrete and measurable outcomes. And first, we need to secure the financial commitment for land restoration projects with clear timelines and clear accountability mechanisms, which is extremely crucial. And establishing a global restoration fund, leveraging the public-private partnerships that can ensure sustained financing. Policy outcomes should include a binding agreement on zero deforestation and sustainable land management practices and enhanced monitoring frameworks to utilize the Earth observation and geographic information systems, and it will be essential for tracking progress. And successful COP would also institutionalize youth and community participation in decision-making processes, and technological innovation must also be prioritized. So success means showcasing pilot projects that can be scaled globally, and finally commitments to align land restoration goals with broader climate and biodiversity targets will ensure an integrated and comprehensive approach to combating land degradation. So that's what I expect from this COP, and yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Pat, for joining on the program and sharing your perspectives. We really appreciate it. From building synergies across global treaties to empowering youths and vulnerable communities, I think one thing that is clear is that we expect COP16 to lay down a solid foundation for addressing land degradation, drought resilience, and their far-reaching impacts ultimately should be the success and will be measured by tangible commitments and actionable strategies that would emerge from the conversations had and, of course, the decisions made. So do stick around with us as we continue to follow this landmark event and its outcomes in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Many thanks for watching. I'm Tonio Gubanjo. It's bye for now.